Classical Conversations is an international educational opportunity. It exists for three purposes. The first and foremost is to know God and make Him known. The second is to educate using Christian classical methods. And thirdly, it's parents mentoring other parents. We function as a group of believers, but we're not limited to only believers. Anyone is welcome to join us in our community and to be a part of us. We use classical education methods because we believe that those are an excellent tool utilizing the way that God built us to present information, to discuss information, and finally to define who we are and what we believe. We model that classical Christian education to one another by parents being the tutors. We don't hire outside of ourselves. We don't look for that master teacher to come in and be that one person who knows everything. Instead, we greatly rely on parents taking up that mantle to educate themselves and then pass that on to whomever their student might be, whether it's a fellow parent or a younger student.
I think it has changed it in good ways. It's made us more consistent and more likely to move forward through the whole year instead of getting stuck.
Well, it's kind of a tricky question because I have a 7-year-old, so in some ways no, but in the long term, yes. And so I know, even though we're memorizing math formulas, we're not necessarily doing it at home, I know they will come in handy, especially the history. I'm not necessarily going into that much detail at home, but we'll hear a date and she'll immediately connect it to Lewis and Clark or to the landing on the moon or something like that.
I think it's absolutely necessary. It gives the kids a good head start into mastering the information for the rest of the week when they have had the information repeated 7 to 10 times in the classroom setting.
Well, if you have a strong basis of history based on original documents, it's hard to become a revisionist, which is actually a good thing. You know where you've come from, and you can learn and glean wisdom from the past in order to make intelligent choices for the future. So I think that is really wise.
It's important because that's the way that I choose to live. In my world, I am first and foremost a believer in Jesus. And secondly, everything else follows after that. So when we as a group keep that as our hallmark, that we are a group of believers who exist to know God, and we know Him through the world that He created, through the subjects that He's provided for us to study, and through interacting with each other. To only know Him that way is only half of the job. To make Him known is taking this world that He's created, the subjects that He has given us, and passing that information on to those around us so that they too can have an opportunity to know Him.
I think it's really important for people to know how to present information, because when you want to pursue a business or anything like that, you need to have presenting skills, because you need to present to other people, if you want any investors.
The tin whistle. Well, I like all the musical parts, and that was just really fun to learn a new instrument, even though it was loud and crazy and okay, everybody plays at once. It was fun to see when different students would catch it, and for some people it was a first time reading notes and connecting the notes and actually getting a song that was somewhat musical.
Well, we used a lot of songs to help the students remember their information. We also pulled out maps, and we had the students find the locations, their geographical locations on maps, and mark them and then erase them and try to remember them, and so that kind of kinesthetic thing. We also made up goofy rhymes and mnemonic devices, and we did funky dances.
Very young students don't understand the concept. They can memorize the concept, but the comprehension, the whys behind the concept, they don't grasp. So as far as rote memory, they can grasp that, and then later on, the clicking of the why, the distributive property always works, that will connect. Is that a valid thing to do? Probably.
I like interacting with all the other students and the parents and the tutors, and I like lunchtime, especially because you get a little hungry while you're memorizing all of the new grammars and doing presentations.
It was really fun doing the review in sort of like a Jeopardy style fashion, where the teacher would ask a question and they'd have to come up with the answer, and you'd get a certain amount of points for getting it right. And I think it brought out the competitive nature in a good way, good peer pressure for the kids, because they were competitive in a friendly, fun manner. So that was a lot of fun.
We have a group of 4 to 6-year-olds, and they're giving their presentations. And their presentation topic that week was, what was my favorite thing? And several of the students had different elements of their faith as being their favorite. I remember EJ Kent stood up and he said, God is my favorite because He died for me and He loves me. Any questions? And that was the end of his presentation. And it started this beautiful conversation between 5 or 6 moms, me, and these 7, 8 little guys about who God is and why He loves us. And it was one of the most beautiful experiences of my whole year, not just at CC, but just my whole year, because we were actually able, all of us, to fellowship and to worship God together when we least expected it. In an academic setting, the kids are still being part of a classroom. We're still able to give them great and excellent educational opportunities, but somehow in the middle of it, God just made himself evident for us, and it was a really beautiful moment.
It's a great group of students, and they're all well-mannered, and they've been very well-mannered all year. And I like to help out with games, and I really like games. And the tutor, I think, had a sore throat that day, and so I was helping rack up points and everything. And I turned to one of the kids that, he was singing the response, because everything, there's a little jingle to every fact that we have. And I said, "Sing it again, Sam." And he stood up on his chair and went like this, and he sang it again, uninhibited. And I thought, Jake Vossler, I don't believe it. He just so confidently got there. Well, that's the thing that just ripped open the envelope for everybody else in class. All of a sudden, these just very composed students let loose, and it was the thing that just caused this big bonding to happen among the students. And I found out that they were very much, they weren't just like this straight-laced, sit in the chair type kid. They all were very creative, and they could have all stood on the chair or on the table and done the song and dance with a hat and everything else.
First joined CC, I didn't really have any greater expectation than it was going to provide a social outlet for my kids and a focused curriculum. That was the limit of my expectation. And in the first year, when my then 10-year-old son stood up and read the entire 23rd Psalm in front of a classroom with confidence, excited to do so, I began to suspect that there was a lot more to this than what I had anticipated. This last year, as I directed my first year of our community in Bend, I have seen my appreciation for Classical Conversations greatly deepen. Did it meet my expectations? Oh, absolutely. Has it exceeded them? In ways that I never imagined.
I think it's fun, exciting, and an adventure.
Hi, my name is Mary Alves, and I'm the Executive National Director and Chief Marketing Officer for Classical Conversations. Now, you may know Lee Borton is the owner and the founder of Classical Conversations, but she is not the face of CC, nor am I the face of CC. The face of the CC is from coast to coast. We have nearly 38,000 children and families in Classical Conversation. And so you are the face of Classical Conversations, and we are so glad that you are participating with us.